So we use this smokehouse to demonstrate the need for both intake and exhaust ventilation. And then also, when a roof makes sense to have a ridge vent, we use this demo to show why you want your ridge vent to have an external wind baffle. And we're going to show that all right now with this smokehouse. So I'm going to fire up some smoke. And the smoke represents heat and moisture building up in your attic. So there it is. You got heat and moisture in your attic. And we're counting on the vents to remove that, but I'm not seeing a lot of movement right now. The smoke's kind of stagnant. Well, that's because on purpose, we have the intake vents closed. We're going to open up the intake vents. And we're going to look back at the peak of the roof. And now we're seeing some movement. Now the heat and the moisture is rising and exiting through the ventilation. But we're going to make this even a little bit better because right now there's no wind. It's just thermal effect, thermal buoyancy. Every vent moves air through thermal buoyancy, but the wind is a stronger mover. So we're going to use this fan to represent wind. Here comes the wind. The wind rides the roof deck as we go up to the peak. Look how much is pumping out now. Look at that. The wind rides the roof deck, intersects the external wind baffle, and deflects up and over, pumping more heat and moisture out. That's called the Bernoulli effect, the Bernoulli principle. It's what gives lift to an airplane. So the message here is you need exhaust, you need intake, and if you're going to use a ridge vent, when it makes sense to use a ridge vent with the external wind baffle.
Perfect. Paul, let me ask you something, Paul.
Please.
So a lot of people, a lot of roofers actually, they offer wristbands to their customers, right? Because
Yes.
it's like okay, you know what, we're going to do your roof and we're going to offer you completely free wristbands.
Yes.
But we always tell customers, you can have all the wristbands in the world, but if you don't have any intake, it's not going to work. Is that true?
That is absolutely true, and I'm glad you're saying that to the customer.
Yes.
We tell, in our educational seminars, we try to explain to homeowners and roofers, you don't have attic ventilation if you don't have both intake and exhaust. It's a two-piece puzzle. You need both pieces.
Perfect. So in order for these ridge vents to work, we need to make sure that at the soffit level, they have these vents, or if they don't have anything because maybe the roof is old or the construction is old, then we can build the intake at the lower part of the roof.
That's correct. There are multiple options to achieve intake, either in the soffit or on the roof, lower edge, but you're absolutely right. You need intake to supply air to the exhaust.
Another question, Paul.
Yes.
Is it okay to mix different kinds of vents on the roof? Let's say, okay, we're going to install ridge vents, but that might not be enough. We're going to give you some of the round vents or maybe a solar power vent. Is that okay?
It is not okay. Thank you for asking. It's the second most common mistake in residential attic ventilation. For the record, the first mistake is lack of intake, which you've already covered. There's 5 types of exhaust: ridge vents, wind turbines, box vents, power fans, gable vents. 5 types. We don't want any 2 of those 5 on the same roof. They work against each other. It confuses the airflow. It short circuits the system. Pick one type, run with it, and then give it intake.
And Paul, last question. Also, our customers have told us, these other roofer is telling me that I can put ridge vents on all peaks of the roof, and we tell them if the peak is too low, it's not going to work because it's going to be taken as a confused air system into the attic. It's not going to work.
Questions.
Is that okay?
So when you have one massive attic with multiple ridge heights, and the vertical distance between the ridge heights is greater than 3 feet, we recommend either limit the exhaust to the uppermost ridge, or if that won't meet your attic's needs, try to isolate the attics by stapling in some plastic sheeting vertically, attic 1, attic 2, attic 3, and then you can exhaust all the peaks.
Would it work if that was too much work? Would you consider maybe a solar vent in some cases?
I see where you're going. Are you thinking because it's lower output?
Probably the ridge length is too narrow.
Too narrow
for ridge vents.
Yes.
Would you then consider like a solar power vent?
A solar power fan or a traditional electric power fan?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
So that way you're not you're using or the most highest peaks of the roof.
Exactly. And the power fan if you give a good intake, should be strong enough to pull the air for the attic. You can size the fan for that attic's needs.
Perfect. And Paul, what is air vent? Can you explain to us?
Yeah, so air vent is part of Gibraltar, which is a manufacturer of a full line of building materials. Air vent in particular, we are a attic ventilation manufacturer based here in Dallas, Texas. And we do educational seminars. We arm, we try to give content to roofers to help educate homeowners. We've got content on the website, airvent.com, Air Vent University, Homeowner Hut.
Perfect. So thank you, Paul. So
Thank you.
we are here with Paul and Roofing Services now. AirVent is definitely the authority when it comes to attic ventilation in Texas. So thank you all for watching this video.